It's fair to say that the early 1900s was a time of political upheaval across the world. Turkey was not immune to these sudden changes in political winds, and a group took power in Turkey in 1905, I believe, getting rid of the Sultan and pushing through various reforms, turning Turkey into, or giving it a constitution. This group was called the Young Turks. This group, despite its political reforms, is also associated with one of the worst Holocausts that went first before the Nazi Holocaust in our living memory. Ultimately, you had a situation where Turkey goes on the side of the Ottoman Empire, takes the side of Germany, whereas the battalions of Armenians decide to take the sides of the Allies. Now, Turkey uses this as a club of sorts, or as an argument for the Holocaust. 1.5 million Armenians died in what was forced marches, or for that matter, outright executions. It was by far one of the worst Holocausts that ever took place at that particular moment in history. Historians across the board would agree with everything that I just said. The organization that was responsible for the Holocaust of 1.5 million people, this is not in doubt, this is not in contention, this is not my opinion, was responsible and pushed forward by the organization called the Young Turks. So, you can get across or see a little bit of how weird and strange it is to me that an Armenian is standing under a banner called the Young Turks that was responsible for this particular atrocity, and attacks Tulsi Gabbard for having an association with Modi because Modi was responsible for his own level of atrocity. It's not so much that I think Tulsi Gabbard should be connected to the hip of Modi. It's not so much I even like the fact that Tulsi has some affinity for Modi. And I know a lot of Tulsi people out there would disagree with me on this, but the other Democratic candidates then sent out a welcome to Modi, and one of the other candidates who was running in the Democratic race went further than not sending out a welcome to Modi when he came here for the quote-unquote Howdy Modi event, outright attacked Modi for that atrocity was committed in his name, and for what was taking place in Kashmir. My argument here is not so much that you can't attack Tulsi Gabbard for it. My argument more so is that a person who's standing under a banner called the Young Turks, an organization or a group that was responsible for the deaths of 1.5 million people, don't have legs to go after Tulsi Gabbard. Nevertheless, Anna Kasparian put out a video doing just that. This video will be quick. This is a certain degree of annoyance. This wasn't a video that was necessarily planned, but after seeing Anna's attack piece on Tulsi Gabbard, this is a video that I would argue to some degree needs to be made. I have no clue, no idea, no understanding at all how a person who is under a banner with 1.5 million people dead, as considered the first Holocaust almost unanimously by historians, can attack Tulsi Gabbard. Welcome to the Soapbox. My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, if you dig this content and you find yourself coming back to this channel often, please like, share, subscribe. Also, you can support this content through PayPal or Patreon. This content is brought to you by you. This particular video will be instantly demonetized, even though nothing I said in this, I will say in this video is false, nor even that hyperbolic. My argument is very basic. Anna Kasparian creates a video attacking Tulsi Gabbard. My question is, how on earth is somebody who's under a banner called the Young Turks, a group that's responsible for the deaths of 1.5 million people, attacking somebody for their political affiliation with somebody who I might find to be detestable, but by the same token, I am not under a network or under a banner of a network that is responsible for the first Holocaust. You can make an argument about whether the Native Americans was considered a Holocaust. I would say that they should be considered. However, whether you want to call it the first or second, let's just be clear that we are talking indeed about Holocaust. How? How does the Young Turks keep a banner up that's responsible for essentially a Holocaust? And B, how does a person who has a racial demographic that was the victim of that Holocaust get on a show and attack somebody for being affiliated with somebody who themselves committed an atrocity? It's not so much that I think whether or not Modi committed an atrocity. I'm actually more so, where on earth does the Young Turks, let alone Anna Kasparian, get legs to attack her for her affiliation with Modi when she herself is under a banner called the Young Turks, who again was responsible for a Holocaust? I've done these videos before where I've made the argument that the Young Turks need to change their name. If you're going to attack the Redskins for having essentially an outright racist name, then you need to also change your name. I don't understand how they keep this name. It's like having somebody screaming Jews for Hitler, or blacks for Klansmen, or the Young Turks, or the Young Turks, or the Armenians for the Young Turks. Anna did this video, and I'm not even going to show the whole video. I'm just going to show the first part. And basically, Tulsi Gabbard is affiliated with right-wing, with the radical right, especially in the context of India. And she has certain affiliations with Modi, who is responsible for an atrocity against Muslims. Let's hear out. Let's hear what Anna has to say about this. And again, Young Turks atrocity. By the way, Cenk Uygur wrote multiple letters denying that this even took place. This is an article that went in the Pennsylvanian. I think this was in 1991. Here's another one in Ceylon, denying the Armenian Holocaust. He put out a retraction saying, I want to rescind my comments on the Armenian Holocaust, but it's unclear on whether or not he still determines it to be a Holocaust, or whether he's just rescinding it because he doesn't necessarily like the pushback that he got for calling it such. Turkey, in many respects, doesn't own up to the Holocaust even happening. And so Uygur, being Turkish, to some degree is understood that there's a cultural heritage that denies the atrocity. I don't have anything to do with the cultural heritage. And it is true that Uygur came out rescinding the statements, but whether Uygur rescinded the statements or not is irrelevant. I'm making the point that someone of Armenian heritage is under a banner called the Young Turks, a group that was responsible for an outright Holocaust, an outright genocide. And if you're going to make attacks on people saying that this person is affiliated with this person or that person, then I don't know how you make this argument. And I definitely don't know how you make this argument under a banner of essentially a group committing a Holocaust. Let's hear Anna. Let's hear her make the case of why Gabbard affiliation with Modi is problematic, but her affiliation with the Young Turks in no way, in her mind, is. She's not bringing up the Young Turks point. I am. I'm just making the point that she has no standing to make this argument. And if you want to argue that you do have standing to make this argument, Anna can argue whatever Anna wants. I'm not necessarily stopping her or saying that she can't argue whatever she wants. I'm making this argument that in her making this argument against Tulsi Gabbard, especially in the way that she's making this argument against Tulsi Gabbard, is her effectively whistling in a house full of glass. Let's hear.
Days of brutal violence broke out against the Muslim population in the Indian state of Gujarat. The violence was communal, with a Hindu mob that also lived in the area setting fire to Muslim homes, slaughtering Muslim children, and raping Muslim women. The New York Times reported that about 1,100 people, mostly Muslims, were killed. Some 20,000 Muslim homes and businesses and 360 places of worship were destroyed, and roughly 150,000 people were displaced. The chief minister of Gujarat at the time was India's current prime minister, Narendra Modi. As a hard right Hindu nationalist from the BJP, he has been accused of being complicit in the riots as well as condoning the violence. There was also blame placed on police and government officials who allegedly gave Hindu rioters lists of Muslim-owned properties to target.
Narendra Modi, a self-declared Hindu.
Now, the entire point of all this is to swing it around to Tulsi Gabbard. Take for the moment that what Anna is saying is true about Modi, which I think it is. which is why I said nobody in their right mind would send a welcome out to Modi when that person is running in a political campaign on the left. The left finds Modi detestable and finds any association with Modi that much more disturbing and problematic. It is the reason why I put my video out saying Tulsi Gabbard should not have sent a welcome out to Modi, and that she is a person, she is not a brand, and she is subject to criticism like anybody else. And whatever you want to say about her, I thought her little tweet about welcoming Modi was problematic at best. But I'm consistent here. I'm not under a banner, called Jews for Hitler, or the Young Nazis, or the Young Klansmen. Whatever you want to call it. I mean, ultimately, we are talking, however, whatever you want to think about Modi, the question becomes, is Anna Kasparian, and for that matter, the banner of the Young Turks, do they have standing to make this argument, considering what the Young Turks name is associated with? I don't like the fact that Tulsi has an association to Modi, but I noted that. I made it clear. I am consistent. The Young Turks needs to change their name. And even taking out the Armenian stuff, even if you don't look at Anna from the standpoint that she's Armenian and she's under a banner associated with a group that literally committed a genocide against her particular heritage, even taking that out for the moment, you're still under a banner of a group that committed a genocide. And the notion that you will point your finger at anybody else, the notion that you would call out anybody else, either Rick Perry for being in a group called Niggerhead Ranch, be it the Washington Redskins for having an outright racist name, the fact that the Young Turks carries on with this name, despite the fact that this name is outright, completely, and from a historical context associated with the murder of 1.5 million people, is outright detestable. And in fact is, Anna, while again, not saying she can't make this argument, is literally whistling in a house full of glass windows in order to make this argument. Change your name. How about that, Anna? How about you doing a no-filter video telling the Young Turks to change his name, seeing as its banner and it's glorifying people who committed an atrocity? It's like having Jews for Hitler. The young Klansmen, whatever you want to call it, you've named yourself. You've named yourself. You've stood under the banner for decades of a group that has committed an outright, entire genocide. That is problematic by best. That is problematic at best. I'm not going to leave this. I'm not going to keep this long. I'm going to leave it here. I saw this video and it annoyed the shit out of me because my thought was, how on earth is Anna attacking Tulsi Gabbard for an association with Modi when she's under a banner called the Young Turks, a group that was outright committed an atrocity against her demographic? And even if, again, you take out her particular demographic, you're still talking about a situation of a group committing an atrocity, and these guys are under this banner and has been under this banner for over a decade, while simultaneously attacking other people for either racist temperament or identitarian things. And yeah, here we are. Here we are. Like, share, subscribe. And congratulations, Tulsi, for getting in the debates. Thanks all.